Hey everybody, it's Thomas with Get Out Arizona in partnership with PhotoForum today because they are the sponsors of our video and you're watching another episode of Garage Talk. So let's not waste any time and get right on it. Today we are doing a quick start guide for photography for the Sony a7 IV. A couple things before we get started. My settings have already been set, so when you go to set these settings, I want you to turn your PASM dial to where the A is lined up with a white hash mark, because we are going to set the camera up today for aperture priority, in raw shooting mode. Continuous autofocus are going to be the main topics there. And at the end, I'm going to show you how to save these custom settings to slot number 1, which I am currently in right now. So enough talk, let's get on it. I'm going to hit the menu button. We're going to jump right into my menu. Now, as you can see, I want to show you guys this really quick. The my menu, all right, I have format set. And the reason I did this is so when I want to format my media, I come here, I hit enter. Boom, it's a quick format job. I don't have to dig deeply into the menu system. Now to add, you're gonna go to my menu, you're gonna come down, you're gonna hit add item. Format is found on page 2, and it's the top one. We're just gonna simply add format to my menu 1, boom, and then that's it, okay? And now you can see we're gonna back out of the menu selection. We're going to come back over here to my menu, and it's there twice. Now I can delete an item, which I'm going to do, just so it's back to having 1, and then back out of that. And then we can see that, whoops, it's just regular format again. Super useful to have it right there, my friends. Now in some of my other cameras, I have some other my menu settings that I don't have in my function menu, okay? We'll get to that. So as you learn your camera and you decide certain things are more important than others, this is a great repository in that my menu setting for those settings. So let's get started. So page 1, okay, let's get back to the menu. Page 1, we're going to go to start with image quality, and here we are going to do JPEG. We're not going to do HEF or the high efficiency compression rate. It's still, I don't consider it a standard, and JPEG is actually the most widely used form of image sharing on the internet, okay? So don't try to reinvent the wheel like Apple does sometimes, just leave it at JPEG. We are going to set our image quality though for RAW, okay? Here's your option. If you do want to shoot JPEG images, you can just come down and select JPEG, but we are RAW shooters and we are going to shoot an uncompressed RAW because we paid a lot of money for our camera. And why are we shooting JPEG? In my opinion, at that point, we might as well just keep using our iPhones for our photography. Aspect ratio, we're gonna leave at 3:2 because that's a native aspect ratio for your sensor. You can choose other aspect ratios, and sometimes when I'm doing stills for video work, I will shoot in a 16:9 so I could see the safety zones and I compose that image for 16:9. But other than that, aspect ratio is 3:2. Again, it's the standard and we don't need to mess with it. Now when it comes to file format for video, this one you could simply just, and it's going to say this is a quick setting because we're not in the video mode, you are going to choose XAVCS-I. That stands for All Intra 4K. We're going to select that. We're going to come here, we're going to select 24 frames a second, and it's automatically going to choose our bit rate, which is 240 megs as far as the information stream at 442 10-bit, which is the highest quality video we can shoot with this camera. We are not going to mess with the APS-C shooting mode because this is typically for video, though you can use it in the photo mode. Another video for another day. As we keep moving down, long exposure noise reduction is off. Why? Well, we don't want the camera doing any more processing to an image than we need it to. We want to save this for our discretion in post-process in either Lightroom or Capture One, and this is another reason why we choose to shoot RAW. Again, high ISO noise reduction is off, HLG still image is off. Color space though, this is important. Change it from sRGB to Adobe RGB. This is the standard color space. It has been forever for photographs, for images, for JPEGs. This is what you want to have it on. Lens compensation, I have all of these turned off. This is something that I will adjust in post-production if need be. We come down to number 2, there's our format. So record media settings. This is basically gonna say, hey, where do you wanna record everything? Well, we wanna record everything to slot 1. We want all our video on slot 1 as well. And for auto switching is turned on, which means when card number 1 fills up, all right, it's gonna automatically start dumping into card number 2. I don't record redundancy and I don't separate anything out. So just to give you a heads up. Now, can you go in there and you can change that? You sure can. You could put video just on card 2 and photos just on card 1. You could shoot JPEG on one and RAW on the other. It's completely up to you. But this is the most, in my opinion, the most efficient way and the way I shoot. So recovery image database, it's gonna ask you slot 1 or slot 2, and the same thing for display media info. So again, leave them where they lie and let's keep moving forward. File folder settings, do not mess with this. Create new folder or IPTC information. This is stuff that every time you put your SD card into your Sony camera and you format it for the first time, Sony's gonna set up a file hierarchy. Don't mess with it, okay? Unless you really know what you're doing, leave it alone, okay? You're gonna find your video images in a folder called clips. You're gonna find your still images, and it's the DCM folder, I believe. Leave it, okay? Good enough. Good enough for you, good enough for me. Next one, we're going to copyright info. Now, if you want, you can turn your copyright info on, set the photographer, set the copyright info, and you can even choose to display it if you want to. Now, I have these set to embed on the metadata, so if someone were to try to steal one of my images, who would want to, I can easily say, hey, you've stolen my images. That metadata is embedded in the image. They can't get rid of it. And so it's proof of ownership. Totally up to you if you want to. I do. It's an option that I choose to use. I do not write the serial number of the camera though onto the image. That's, I guess, a little bit too much for me. Recall camera settings, camera set memory, and memory recall media. These are ones that we're going to get back to at the very end after we've made all our setting adjustments. Now, frame rate, this is for streaming, okay? We're not worried about that today. We're worried about just photography. Drive mode, continuous shooting, yes. So you can do single shooting mode. You can do continuous high, high plus, low, medium. You can come down to a timer for single, timer for continuous, timer for bracket. All these different modes, I leave mine in continuous high shooting. It's the sweet spot. If I need to take an image, boom, 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 it rattles off several, then I could pick which one is the best one out of the lot. Sometimes you get 2 or 3 keepers, but this gives you a little bit more flexibility when you're choosing that winner. These are bracketed settings for exposure brackets. I have a timer set for my exposure brackets, so when I hit the shutter button on the tripod and step back, it gives the camera a chance to settle, and then it fires off those exposure brackets. Now, my bracketing order is from negative, underexposed, to neutral, to overexposed. You can change this if you want. That's preference at that point. Neither one is better than the other. This is the intervalometer. If you're not doing time-lapse photography, don't worry about this. And if you are, there's a lot better videos than anything I could ever do on this subject out there, although I'm sure I'll make a video on this specific feature for the Sony cameras here in the next several weeks. But for today, we're not gonna worry about it. Silent shooting mode, I have off, though in my custom function setting, I can toggle on or off. And this basically turns the audible notifications on and off, your timer beeping, anything else that the camera might squawk at you about. Now, if I'm in a setting that I need to be quiet, a press release, something along that lines, I turn my camera into full silent mode. No one even knows I'm using it. So for right now, it is off though. I have the electronic shutter set, which you can change to mechanical shutter. I get a higher burst rate in electronic shutter mode, and that's why I have it set to electronic shutter. Now, if it's a mechanical mode, I get the option to use the front curtain, the E front curtain. That's why it's grayed out, because I'm in electronic shutter mode. Release without lens, I have enabled. Release without card, I have enabled. Now, anti-flicker is grayed out because it doesn't matter if you are in electronic shutter mode. So that's something we're not going to worry about at the moment. I have steady shot on, and I have steady shot adjustment set to auto. If I'm using a full manual lens, no electronic contactors, nothing, has its own aperture ring, I am going to change this to manual, and then I'm going to set my focal length. I am using Sony glass, electronic contactors. All that information is being transferred to the camera automatically. We leave it in auto mode. Let's keep going. Now, custom key Z speed and remote zoom speed. These are for clear image zoom for video. Don't worry about these in photo mode, and to be quite honest with you, I don't worry about them in video mode either, because I'm not using clear image zoom. So if it's something that you're going to use, there's some great videos, tutorials out there on using clear image zoom. It's something that I don't use, so I don't even worry about these settings in the menu system. For photography, they're not important. So grid line, I have it turned on. I have it set to the rule of thirds. And my live view display set, I have the setting effect on. Now, this is going to allow you to see, okay, when you're changing your exposure, real-time change in your EVF or on the back panel screen. It's important, leave it on, do not turn it off. I also have the except for exposure set and flash. Low frame rate limit I have off. So we come back here, and now we're in exposure and color. Auto ISO, yes, I use it sometimes. Why not? Again, I paid top dollar for my camera. I might as well let it do the heavy work, especially if I'm just running and gunning. It's going to make the correct choice 99 times out of 100. That's why we choose Sony. And Canon shooters, you have the same benefit as well. I'm not knocking the Canon cameras. Sony, I just know for a fact, does it extremely well. I have my range, well, my auto ISO I have set from 100 to 6400, okay? Now, if you want, you can push this to 12,800, okay? And that is perfectly fine. You can do a little cleanup in post. I use Topaz denoise, works amazingly well, and I know this camera can handle 12,800 on the noise. It's still a very usable image. And then of course you see here I have my limit, so I can't go any higher than 12.8, and I have my shutter speed set to standard. Now if you want, you can actually go in here and you can set your shutter speeds, okay? What the ceiling is, what the floor is gonna be. I let the camera make that decision for me. Again, it's not something I'm tremendously worried about. If I was worried about shutter speed, then I'm going to either shoot in full manual and I'm going to hard set my shutter speed, or I'm shooting in shutter priority. Okay, but for aperture priority, I'm very happy with what the Sony cameras do for me as far as making those decisions. So let's keep moving forward. Exposure compensation should always be at 0. There's a few caveats to that for video, but not for photos, so we're gonna make sure it's always at 0. Your increments are gonna be 0.3, so 1/3 of a stop, and the standard adjustment rate. Leave this alone. If I go to change this, it's going to say, are you sure you want to change this? And I'm gonna hit cancel. Why? You don't need to. Again, we're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Metering mode I have for multi. I have it for priority on faces. If I'm doing a group, it's going to look at the faces first and judge exposure based on those faces before it takes the totality of the scene, which is great. My spot metering point is always center, and I do lock my exposure with the shutter button, though I use back button focus. So if you want to use flash on a Sony camera, you must engage mechanical shutter, then come back, turn flash on, and then you have to turn wireless flash on as well. Pain in the balls, definitely. I wish using flash with Sony was a little easier, but for the most part with all mirrorless cameras, because there's only a handful of them that can fire an electronic shutter, the Alpha one being one, and I believe the Canon R3 and the Nikon Z9 are the others. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. With this camera, you have to turn on the mechanical shutter, okay? That's the only way it's gonna work. And then it works great, and then you can make all the adjustments you want as far as that. I have a flash that I use for events. Other than that, don't do it. So white balance I have for auto, priority set and white balance is standard. And then I do not have the white balance lock turned on for the shutter. Some people choose to, I don't. That's a personal preference in my opinion. Now, if you're wondering what priority set and white balance, auto white balance is, this allows you to change whether it's going to be auto white balance ambient, auto white balance a little bit whiter, a little bit cooler, a little bit warmer. Just leave it on auto white balance and make any adjustments to the white balance you need to in post, in Lightroom or Capture One. Again, it's why we shoot RAW. So that being said, we're gonna keep moving. Dynamic Range Optimizer is on, but that is only for JPEGs. Creative Look is standard, although it doesn't matter, that is only for JPEGs, but I strongly recommend if you're gonna shoot JPEGs, you leave this to standard. Do not bake in any look from a Sony camera. This is not a Fuji shooting film emulsions, okay? This is a Sony camera using creative, okay, profiles for pictures. Don't do it, all right? Standard is the way to go. Picture profile is going to be for video, so we're not gonna concern ourselves with that one right now, all right? Now, soft skin, always off. Zebra displays, I do have these turned on, and the reason being is, it's for video and it keeps me from clipping out my highlights, but I also use it for photography because I tend to shoot underexposed. It's just my style, it's just my way, and I want to make sure I have a little bit of a warning if I'm starting to creep up into blowing out my highlights. So I have this set to be turned on or off, toggled on or off as far as that goes with my quick function menu. So my zebra levels are set at 90. Now, focus mode. Continuous autofocus. Priority set in autofocus single. I have a balanced F-assist for both. This means when I go to hit the shutter button, even if it's not quite in focus, it's still gonna let me take the photo, okay? If it's grossly out of focus, it will not let me take the photo. So it's one of those things. You kind of rob Peter to pay Paul. I've never really had an issue with the balanced F-assist mode, and this is why I choose to use it. I've used the other modes. I don't care for them. This is the one that I stick with. Tracking sensitivity, I have set for 2, but you can choose which one you want. The autofocus illuminator for me is always off. It's a light on the front of the camera that'll turn on if it's too dark. I never thought it worked that well anyways, so I just leave it off. It's annoying. At its least, it's annoying as far as that goes. When we're looking at aperture drive and autofocus, I have that set to standard, and autofocus with shutter is turned off. I am purely a back button focus user. You can turn this on and focus with your shutter. No harm in that. A lot of people still do it, but I strongly suggest you learn how to do back button focus. So, pre-autofocus is off. I don't want pre-autofocus. Focus areas, expanded spot. You have a plethora of options from tracking, expanded, medium spot, center fixed, zone, or wide. Zone is what I use for video, and this is my default expanded spot and tracking spot when I am shooting any other photography mode, all right? It's just what I do, unless I'm doing like architecture or landscape, and then I'm in manual mode. So we're gonna stick with that one. Let's go back. Focus area limit, I have all of these checked, so there's no limit on any of those. Switch area is off. And the reason being here, okay, vertical, horizontal, wherever I have the focus set, when I go to vertical, I want it to be where it was last when I left vertical. And when I switch it to horizontal, it's going to stay where it was last, horizontal mode. That's why I have that turned off. Focus area color is red, but you can change it to white. Autofocus area registration I have off. I'm not doing any custom areas, so that is off. I don't need to worry about deleting it, and the auto area or autofocus area auto clear is off because I don't set any, again, custom areas for where my focusing is going to be. Area display during tracking on, continuous area display on, phase detect area on. I want to actually see kind of like a visual verification that all these things are on and they're working, they're squared out around the eye, around the face, whatever I'm doing, I want to make sure it's just a visual cue. Can you turn them off? Absolutely. I know some people that have them turned off. For me personally, I enjoy them being on. Autofocus frame move amount standard. You can have it move a little, which is standard, or leaps and bounds. That's personal preference. I like it in standard mode. Face eye priority on, human, okay? And you could choose animal, bird, whichever one you want, and you can set this up again in your quick function menu, which we'll get to. Subject selection, setting, I have all of them checked, so if I want to shoot any of them, I don't have to worry about it. I have it set to select, auto select which eye. The face eye framing display is on, face memory. You can actually go ahead and set register priority faces is on. So this is where you get a chance. So if you're in a crowd, if you're doing an event and you want to concentrate just on one person, even if they are in a crowd, you can actually register and set a face. And when it goes to focus, it's going to recognize that face and boom, it's going to lock onto them. I haven't used it. I've seen it used before. It's pretty cool voodoo magic. It's something if that's your shtick, but I don't do enough events to justify it. So there you have it. Automatic fire and manual focus I have turned on, so when you turn the manual focus ring, it's going to punch right in. The focus limit is none. I have it set to initially magnify to 5 times. It works really good, guys, if you're pulling critical focus manually. And I also have it set to work in autofocus because I have a custom button mapped to that punch in, because I also use manual lenses that have, remember, no digital contactors, no electronic contactors, so this is why I have that set up as well, and it works equally as good in autofocus. So I have my peaking display on, I have my peaking level set to mid, and I have my color to red, but I think you could choose a couple different colors. Yep, yellow, blue, white. I have it red. I wish green was an option. My eyes visually key in better on green than they do red. You know, that's just one of those things. Now we are gonna go over here and we are gonna skip over all of these, come over here, but skip over some of these as well. I just wanna show you a few things that we'll go into in a deeper dive menu. The custom key dial set, custom key dial set for video, and custom key for playback and function menu settings. I strongly urge you to use your camera in all of these modes, okay? Playback's just looking at your photos, so that one's kind of inconsequential. But for photo and video, and get used to how you're operating the camera, what's most important to you. Before you dive in and you start changing a bunch of these items, don't. Sony, Canon, and Nikon have done a really good job of setting these things up based on their shooters, what their shooters do and everything, and that's really, you should leave it that way. Now, have I changed my custom settings? Sure. But when I first started, I left it alone, and then as I needed, oh God, I'm constantly wanting to change this. Silent mode, non-silent mode, frame rate for video. These are things that, yes, you put in that quick function menu, so that way you have quick access no matter what you're doing, photo or video. Now, for the dial setting, where everything's set up and mapped on the different buttons and everything, again, this comes down to personal preference, but I strongly urge you to wait, get used to the camera, and then decide if you need to add or change something on those button settings. Trust me, you have plenty of people come into the camera shop, okay, going, I don't know what I did. We have to do a hard reset on their camera and then start all over again. So don't be that person, whatever you do. Now when we come to dial customization, same thing. And these are gonna be independent of video and photography modes, okay? So, but touchscreen operation. So touchscreen is on, touch panel only, and the touchpad settings, here you can go ahead and change these. I have found the way Sony has it set up works just fine, and I have not had to actually change the touchpad settings, and I have it set to where it is doing tracking just for video. I don't use the touchscreen in photo mode, just for video. So now if we go into page 7 in the setup menu, select Finder Monitor, leave in auto. Monitor brightness I have set to sunny weather. The reason being is I want it as bright as possible. I want that resolution as high as possible. I don't care that it uses more battery. I paid for it. That's the way I want it. Obviously, I'm using readers and I have contacts. Every benefit I possibly can, I want it turned on, and that's why the Finder frame rate is set to high, okay? So we come out of there, display options. We're not worrying about gamma assist or any of those right now. Those are for video. power options. Okay, so the monitor does not turn off. I have the power saving mode, comes in at 2 minutes. Power save by monitor is linked, and the auto power off temp, change this to high. This is for the video shooters. Everybody's gonna tell you this, no matter what quick start guide you watch. If you're doing video, you turn this to high. Turn it on high now to save yourself the heartache. These are going to be for your audio options. We're not going to worry about that right now because that's for video. USB, we're not worried about that now. External output now for video, we'll get to these, but these are important, so kind of keep that in the back of your head. And then setup options, again, these are ones we're not going to worry about right now because they don't have to do with the photography and they're not really linked to the video section. This is just going to be some housekeeping ones. So now at that point, we are going to come back here and we're going to go to shooting mode, which is page 4 in the photography menu. But before we go any further, all right, let's talk about our sponsor, PhotoForum. Now, PhotoForum has been a fixture in Phoenix, Arizona for the photography community for 50 years now. That's right, established in 1972 with only 2 owners, including their current owner, Randy, who is an absolute gentleman. We have an amazing staff. We're all working professionals. I work there part-time, just so you guys know, full disclosure, and my coworkers are phenomenal. There's umpteen years of experience combined from all 5 of us, which is great. We have a great community. We have a great online presence in the Valley at PhotoForum AZ, and that's F-O-T-O Forum AZ. We offer classes, introductory classes for photography and videography. We offer printing services. We offer film development services. We do it all for the most part. And here in 2023, we're making that push and we're developing a whole new section for our hybrid shooters like me and like you. So if you're in the Valley of the Sun and you're looking for a quality, reputable camera shop that's going to help you choose the right camera for you and not just regurgitate product information, PhotoForum's your place, my friends. And at the end of the day, you can come in and see me. And what's better than that? So, all right, guys, let's get finished up with our video here before the battery runs dead on the Ninja. So we're back in shooting mode and we're gonna go to camera set memory. From here, you are going to go memory 1, and now that's going to register your settings. Now, you turn your camera off, you turn it back on, you go to setting number 1, boom. All these settings that we just did, okay, are going to recall. Now, here's the thing. As you get to learn your camera system, you're like, oh, I want to set something up for shutter priority. Set it for shutter priority, come back here, camera set memory, and you could choose number 2, okay? And number 3 for manual settings, maybe for your architecture or landscape or astrophotography. And this is going to be the same process for the video mode, okay? Set all our settings and then we store them. And then for our S&Q, we set all our settings and we store them. Guys, the functionality of this camera is truly amazing. What you can do as far as customizing your menus, once you get a handle on everything and going forward, is truly phenomenal. And I'm glad to see the camera industry, camera manufacturers are finally giving us, the creators, that amount of leeway when it comes to doing these things. So on that note, my friends, I hope you've enjoyed the video here. Again, sponsored by PhotoForum, brought to you by Get Out Arizona. All right, my friends, that's it. That is the quick start guide for photography for the Sony a7 IV. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. Just be respectful. A lot of the menu settings, again, are personal preference. RAW versus JPEG. How you want to store those RAW images on slot 1, slot 2. Are you going to have redundancy? Are you not going to have redundancy? But this is why we make our own choices as far as that goes. But this is just to help you get up and running on the camera so you can start taking quality images as quickly as possible. Here in another week or so, we're going to have a quick start guide for the video side of it, so stay tuned for that. At this point, I'm going to ask that you hit the like, the subscribe, and the bell notification icon because it helps out the video and it helps out the channel. And it would be nice of you to do, because we need all the help we can get. And what do we say for Get Out Arizona? It's park passes, coffee, and gas money, of course. So also, we're going to have some links to our social media. That's going to be Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, the devil's work, but it's necessary to get the word out for Photo Forum. We are going to have affiliate links down below for everything that we've used in the production of this video. So if you follow one of those links and you make a qualifying purchase, we will receive a commission, but you will not be charged any additional monies. And again, that helps out the channel a great deal, and we appreciate that support. I also want to give a huge thanks to the sponsor of this video, Photo Forum. Obviously, it's the place I work part-time, but they did not have to choose to sponsor this video, and so I thank them, the owners, sincerely for giving me the opportunity to do these videos for you, not only our Get Out Arizona community, but for our Photo Forum community as well. So on that note, my friends, what do we always say? Be kind to yourself and others. Be amazing stewards on that trail. Seriously, my friends, and we have to ask, what are you waiting for? Get Out Arizona. We will see you on that next adventure. Take care, my friends, and we'll catch up with you soon.